Welcome to the launch of the Healthy Life Living Healthy Report 2025, Harnessing the Digital World for Better Health. What a beautiful morning and a beautiful venue. And we start off in a university that, if you think about that, that has really had to harness and to use the digital world to continue as a business. So it's a beautiful place that started way before the digital world and has really moved into the times of the digital world. And I'd like to thank everyone for being here this morning. I know it's an early start and people have got lots of things on. But it's fantastic because having all of us here allows us to share the report with hundreds of health advocates. And that means that you can all help amplify the message and the messages and the health messages that we're going to share today. And that helps everyone live a healthy life. I'm Simone Austin, I'm the Chief Health Officer and the Chair of the Health Advisory Board here at Healthy Life, and I'm also an accredited practicing dietitian. And I get the privilege and the fun to be your MC for the morning. So we are going to have some fun. We've got some serious topics, but we're also going to have a lot of fun joining and meeting new people. This is the fourth of our Living Healthy reports. I'm amazed. Ananth reminded me the other day of number 1. And he said, I thought you were going to quit because it was very stressful, but I've made it to number 4, and that's fantastic. And hopefully that you have all enjoyed and been on the journey along the way. The proceedings this morning, you can see they are on your table, and we've also got a delicious breakfast that is going to be served to you in probably about 5 minutes or so. So please feel free to eat as we go through this morning. We have our advisory board who are going to participate throughout the day as well. But I would like to start the morning with an acknowledgement to country. Woolworths Group acknowledges the many traditional owners of the lands on which we operate, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. We recognise their strengths and enduring connection to lands, waters and skies as the custodians of the oldest continuing cultures on the planet. We're committed to actively contributing to Australia's reconciliation journey through listening and learning, empowering more diverse voices, caring deeply for our communities, and working together for a better tomorrow. And it's really important in our report, we talk very much about equity of access. And for our First Nations people, this is really important. So when we think about digital services and digital tools that we're creating, thinking about encouraging the communities to be involved to ensure these services are appropriate for people and place. So our advisory board, I'm going to point them out to you, the awesome team that helped put this together, and then I will introduce them further when you hear from them all today, because they have some exciting things to do. But we have Sarah Gray over here. Give us a wave, Sarah. And we have Dr. Dinesh Palapano over here, and we have Dr. Moira Jung here, and Rob, where is Rob sitting? Where is Dr. Rob over there as well. So I'll introduce them further to you as we go along. The other people, I should mention that we have in the room here to share with us today. We have people from Woolworths Group and we have some Healthy Life team members. We have universities, we have researchers, we have media, tech companies, suppliers, peak health bodies, and health professionals. We have a huge range here today. And that really shows that improving the health of our nation is not just to one sector. It is absolutely a collaborative approach. So we're really happy that you are all here today. Today's topic, harnessing the digital world for better health. And if there's only one thing you remember today, it will be the topic name, how we harness the digital world. It's not going anywhere. So we absolutely need to think about how we best use it to harness our health and to better our health. With that rapidly changing digital environments, they're embedded in our lives and they're reshaping health as we know it. We've got the digital natives. I think of my youngest daughter, who has, not so young anymore, but still youngest daughter, and they have had digital embedded in their life. They don't know any other way. They speak digital like they speak their native language. And then you've got what I call the digital immigrants, the people like me, the parents and the teachers, who are trying to role model life And that includes role modelling how we might use screens, while we're still trying to actually work it out for ourselves and how screens and technology are influencing our own health. So we sort of find ourselves in a fairly defining moment in history where we've probably got the last few generations that will actually know what life before digital is like. And even though it's really good to embrace what's coming, I still think it's fairly important that we think about the benefits of life before digital. So it's a little bit of a warm-up exercise, and so you can get to know other people on your table, and you can have a little bit of fun. You've got some toys on your table, and these are big W toys. There's probably one between 2 or so. The recorders are absolutely clean. They are brand new, and I would like everyone on the table to, at least all those recorders need to be open. And I love this meme. I know music is more than just the recorder. But someone from your table is going to play either Three Blind Mice or Hot Cross Buns, and then you're going to have a little bit of a chat to someone else on your table about the other toys that are there. So grab the toys, talk about memories, and make a bit of noise. Okay, I might stop your fun there. We can continue the fun later on. And whoever was your best recorder player is welcome to take that recorder home and play it for your family. Woo! Okay, I need to blow the recorder. Woo! Bring you back. Hopefully, whoever played the recorder, feel free to take it home and punish your family with it, unless you're a very good player. And feel free to take the other toys with you. I know my favourite toy there is the Slinky, that one there. When I was a kid, I had a Slinky, but I was obviously not very good at physics because I decided I would use the Slinky as a skipping rope. And you can imagine how that ended. I had a very squashed Slinky. So I might grab a new one from one of the tables before I go. So now I would like to actually invite to the stage the Managing Director of W Living, Von Ingram. And Von's going to share with us a little bit about the Woolworths commitment, the Woolworths Group commitment to health, particularly around digital. Welcome, Von. Welcome, Von, to the stage. Thank you. Forward.
Thank you, Simone, and good morning, everyone. It is so wonderful to be here in this room with you all, celebrating the launch of the 4th Living Healthy Report. What we do is about bringing a little good to everyone every day. That's what drives us, and that's what keeps us going when we think about the role that our food businesses can play in the communities in which they serve. It's not just about food, though. Of course, good health starts with good food, and that's the foundation of everything. And Healthylife is so proudly supported by Woolworths Group because Healthylife for us can set a North Star of where we go. We're really proud of all of the things that we do around the group, around health. Health, we know, is the second highest topic on customers' minds on any given day. The first topic, just to call it, of course, is how expensive it is to live. But health is a very close second. And so we're always looking for ways to help our customers with health everywhere in the group. As I said, it does start with good food, and there's many examples here and even more examples in the reports that are in front of you. Recipe inspiration is really big for our customers. We know they all say that they want to be healthy, but they find it hard to think about where to start, what to eat, how to get inspired. Typically, people have a repertoire of 8 to 12 recipes that they always cook, and eating in new ways is hard. And so what Woolworths Food does on woolworths.com.au is provide recipe inspiration for people. You can tailor those recipes based on your dietary needs, but it just makes it that little bit easier for people to start their health journey with good food. Perhaps the other one I'll call out is the food tracker, which is a way that any customer, if they're an Everyday Rewards member, can see what the composition of their food shopping is, or what the composition is of what they shop. I'll tell you where to find it, just in case you're interested and just in case you haven't done it yet. It's on the Everyday Rewards app in the Discovery tab. I always find it actually really interesting to have a look at the composition of the baskets that my family eats, and I'm proud to say, and I wouldn't have said this if I wasn't here, but I'm proud to say that we eat majority always foods, which is great. great, but also there's a little bit of a sometimes food component because we can't go past chocolate because it's just too delicious. But it's a really wonderful way of actually understanding what you're putting in your basket, helps you understand little healthy nudges if you wanted to swap out a product for something else that's a little bit healthier. And again, it's just one of those things that actually helps make people's journeys a little bit easier if they're interested in health. Can't go past Healthylife telehealth either. One of the things that we hear from people is how can we help make health more accessible and affordable? And actually it's really easy to access a doctor now on Healthylife via our partnership, which we're very proud of with Holla Health. The last one I'll touch on so we can get to the main event is, of course, affordable family fun and affordable family sporting from Big W. Part of the Big W team is sitting over there, so shout out and thank you for everything that you do, which is all about actually making it easy for kids, if they want to get outside. Skipping ropes, basketballs, family sporting, you name it, it's probably there, but it's just another way that families can lean into health together. So every single part of the group is in some way, shape or form, and every business thinking about how to make health a little bit easier. I did just want to round off with saying a very big and heartfelt thank you to our wonderful Healthylife Advisory Board who have delivered this 4th report. I feel like every single year I'm waiting on tenterhooks for the topic and they're always so relevant and of this time. So thank you for helping us set the North Star for the group and for where we want to go from a health perspective. And thank you to every one of you for coming here. Life is busy. We're all more connected than ever before, which is both, as we will hear, a gift and sometimes something very difficult to deal with. So thank you for taking the time to come and learn a little bit about what health in the digital context is. So enjoy the morning. A huge also thank you to the Healthylife team, and I'll hand back to you.
Thanks, Martin. Thank you. Thank you. Your breakfast will start to be served, so feel free while I'm presenting to tuck in, because obviously as a dietitian, food is very dear to my heart, and I really want to make sure that you are well nourished for some of the activities that are coming our way. You don't need to see any more of me. To introduce the report, I want to show you our animated video. This is our hero video, and I'm very proud of it. It's come up brilliantly. It uses our illustrations. You'll see the front cover of the report are illustrations we had done. And what it's representing is our environments, both our physical and our digital environments, and how the digital environment really shows up in that physical environment. And the report is in the pillars of eat, move and sleep, feel and stay healthy. And move and sleep we put together because the physical activity and sedentary-based guidelines come together around recommendations around move and sleep. So let's have a look at the video. I think that deserves a round of applause. I think it's a very good one. And I particularly like the M&C Sachi who helped us put it together, and Ben, Joseph and Annabelle. Where's Joseph and Annabelle? Put your hands up. They've done a phenomenal job. That's an amp saying a phenomenal job of putting everything together, and they have the best attention to detail of what things look like than anyone I've ever worked at. I tend to say, oh yeah, it looks really good. And they're like, oh no, that needs to move over here and over there and this there. And then I go, oh yeah, looks much better now. So everything in the report is looking fantastic because of their input and Armstrong and the agency as well. So we thank them for helping with all of that. So it's certainly the time is right. We've got information at our fingertips. We've got digital services everywhere. We're connected. So it really is the time to think about how the digital world is going to benefit our health. And you can obviously download the report, share it wherever you can, back on this slide here, QR code. You will also see some QR codes that come up about questions. So if you think about a question you would like to have, we will have a panel at the end. Feel free to submit it just by clicking on the QR code, put your question in, and then we'll get it at the end for the panel. So if we look by numbers, we've got 1 in 2 Australians live with a chronic disease. We have 11 years in ill health. And recent Australian Institute of Health and Welfare data that just came out last week showed, yes, we are increasing our years, we're living for longer, but it's just more years in poor health. And if we've got connected, nearly 95% of us are internet adopters, then how do we use the digital world to actually catch up, have health catch up with our longevity? Because obviously we don't want to just continue to get older if we're not getting healthier. And the digital world is embedded in our lives. And I often talk about you can have knowledge, but that doesn't necessarily equal action. You have to have environments around you that are supportive so that you can actually make change and make long-lasting change. And if you think about our physical environments and our digital, you can be in the same physical environment. There's a great picture in the report about a lounge room. You can be in the same physical environment, but in very different digital environments. Now that actually brings an opportunity for health promotion because you can target much more easily when you're looking at digital. So we've got to use that to our advantage. It's much more difficult in a physical environment, but we can do it in digital. I'm going to go into a deep dive into the Eat Healthy section because that's the part I love. And then we're going to I'll give you a little scratch of the surface of the other pillars, and then we've got some activities to bring the other pillars alive for you. Very much so if we look at how we shop, how we eat, our online food shopping, meal delivery services, hundreds of unhealthy food advertisements that would pop up online, particularly for children, inspiration, misinformation, good information, all affects how we are eating. And our shopping habits, we know the digital world is very much embedded. If we look within Woolworths Group, visits to the digital platforms now exceed in-store transactions or in-store visits. So we know it's embedded. We have to understand how these digital environments, how people are using them, how they're influencing them, and what we can do to use them for the best to make sure that we're actually eating healthier. And what are Australian households purchasing? If we look at the Australian Dietary Guidelines, we've got the vertical line there that shows you what we should be eating, how many serves, and then the coloured lines that you see there are what we're purchasing on average. This is across all retail. It's for at-home eating. So it's not just Woolworths supermarkets, it's across all retail for at-home eating. So not takeaway or cafes or restaurants. And we can see we've got a fairly long way to go on hitting the core food groups. We don't hit any of them on average per day, and we're very much exceeding on discretionary. So it's about how can we nudge people to just squeeze that yellow line down the bottom a little bit up to the other colours. We're not necessarily going to hit all of those core food groups, but it's good if we got a little bit closer. So just before you tuck into your food, I am going to disturb you and ask you to stand up. And on your name badges, you have a colour. So you are actually all a food group. So have a look at what colour you have. Some people are a little annoyed that they're a discretionary food, I know. So you're a colour. You are a food group. And for the point of this exercise, this room is 100%, apart from a few people who might not have shown up, but otherwise, you represent these 17 and a half serves on the average of what Australians are purchasing. And I think it's just good to get a visual representation. I'm going to ask you, based on your food colour, to sit down, and that's just going to give us an idea of whether that's a big amount food group we purchase or a small one. And I'm going to leave the vegetable group till last, because that's the one we need to do a lot of room and work on. So if you are purple, you are fruit. So I want the fruit people to sit down. You can get back into eating your breakfast. Fruit people, sit down. That's not many, is it? We really need more fruit people, so we need Australians to be eating more fruit. If you are orange, you are grains, which should be one of our biggest group. Orange, you can sit down. Now, if we're following the Australian Dietary Guidelines, probably a third of the room should sit down. Still quite a lot of us standing. Blue, your dairy and dairy alternatives. Would you like to sit down? Again, not that many, but a few. Pink, your meat and meat alternatives. You can tuck into your breakfast now. Okay, so we've now got discretionary left and vegetables. I'm going to get discretionary. I'm going to get you yellow people to sit down. Whoa. So a fair bit of our room sat down. And we've got our veggies left. So in terms, you're the heroes, hey? The vegetables. But really, probably another double amount of you is what we need to be standing. Veggies, I'll let you sit down and you can tuck into your breakfast. But it really shows that we need to squash that yellow part up and to get an awful lot of us eating more of the other serves. So what does this look like over the last 5 years? Have we made any changes? A little bit. 2020 and 21 were during COVID times, so all of the serves were up because we were obviously purchasing a lot more food for retail. We weren't eating out at cafes and restaurants. But there is some good news. We've had a slight increase in the amount of serves of vegetables. So good on you, the green group. We've had a slight increase of all of you. Your population has gone up slightly by 0.3 of a serve. That's not bad. And we might think that's not significant. But in terms of population, it is. If we all ate one extra serve of veggies a day, so if you all ate more of that spinach and tomatoes and mushrooms that are on your plate now, a scoop of extra peas, we could reduce the chronic disease rates by about 14%. And that's from some AusVeg data. I think we've got some AusVeg people in the room. Yes, we have. So that's great data. And it's a no-brainer to think about using digital tools around health promotion. We need people to eat more veggies. If we look at the grains, they went down a little bit. Not so great. If we think about the interest, though, in things like gut health on social media, whole grains in particular are really important for our gut health. But what else is it maybe on social media, or what other messages that maybe are asking us to be carb low or not eat enough carbs? But in Australia, grains are really important, and we need to change that trajectory. We need to get people to be eating more of their whole grains. And then if we look at discretionary, there was a slight decrease, and that's fantastic. It's 5.9 to 6.1. Sorry, the other way around, 6.1 to 5.9. I was just checking if you were listening. But is that because we're buying maybe more discretionary out of home? Are we ordering it via our online delivery services? Is it maybe some new medications and drugs that are on the market that are reducing our discretionary? It's very hard to tell what the influences are until we have maybe another couple more years of those new things and data. But what we do know is we need to get people eating more veg. So how will we do it? Von briefly mentioned how good she was on the food tracker tool, and it'd be really good to get more of you to have a look, because we've seen tools like Food Tracker can help. Digital tools do help. You don't have to enter anything yourself on the Food Tracker tool. You simply scan your shopping and there is your bar graph like what you saw there before. And what we did is we had a fruit and veg challenge, and people were rewarded with extra rewards points for every $1 they spent on fruit and veggies. And we saw a 10% increase in serves purchased of fruit and veg. Now 10%, that would be an extra 2.5 serves. We'd reduce the chronic disease rate by 30%, imagine that. So how good is it that we can actually increase if we use incentives? So it's about how you design the tools. And incentives is one, but it's also how easy they are to use. Do they have goal setting? Are they simple? Have we made sure they're evidence-based? And the Healthy Life team have ticked off all those things in putting Food Tracker. But now it's about getting it in the hands of more Australians. Now, I just said before, we can use public health and digital, very much need to use that digital space to get our messages across. And I think about how many notifications we get on our phone. Wouldn't it be good if we got notifications about eating more veg? Now, if any of you have got your phone there, you might just have got a Healthy Life notification about eating more veg. Did some people get that on your phone? Yes, that's good. It went through. I'm not really that good at technology, even though I'm doing a digital technology report. But I'm glad that you got that. So how easy would it be to just get a notification about why you should be eating more veg? The rest of you who haven't seen it can read it later. What are some of the influences when purchasing food online? Price. People talk about price is going to influence whether they buy healthy food or not. And some people told us it's a barrier. But when we looked at our data, we actually found if you want to buy a diet that's in line with the Australian dietary guidelines, so you hit all those core food groups and no discretionary, it is cheaper. Now, we might not all be able to do that gold star or that A+, but a healthy diet that follows the Australian dietary guidelines can be cheaper. And in fact, it can be about 8% cheaper when we base it on using this cost per serve. So the cost per serve uses Woolworths data, and it gets all the foods in each of those food groups, from the most expensive to the cheapest. So it could be from your caviar to your lobster to your mince if it was the meat and alternatives group. So there's no cutting out of anything. It's using and getting a real true average of the cost per serve of that food group. And so then we calculated what it would be for a family of 2 adults, 2 children, to work out that family shop. But because it's on cost per serve, that 8% that it could be cheaper could be a person of 1, it could be a family of 20. It still can be about 8% cheaper. Now that's a pretty good savings. And then you can even have further savings of buying a healthy food if you were to look in season, or maybe to swap your brands, and things like making, say for instance, a more expensive food group, meat and alternatives, go further by adding in my favourite topic to talk about, which is legumes. So for instance, if you added in some lentils into your spaghetti bolognese or your lasagna, that would bring the price down and increase your health as well. So really we do need to have a look at what are our opportunities here. Grains, only 32 cents a serve. We're not eating enough of them. If you could think about how we could get people to make their shop healthier by using your grains, we could use some of this data. So these are the top contributors to each food group. And I talked before about how we could maybe use social media to target. Say we look at the discretionary foods and we think about kids coming home from school and they're tucking straight into the biscuits, maybe the chips or the ice cream, chocolate, whatever it might be. Could we target the message for them to eat more grains to make a toastie, a cheese toastie? Could it be a bowl of breakfast cereal? Could it be whole grain crackers and cheese? So I think this sort of data gives us a good way to say, well, what are people eating most of? And what could be a really plausible swap? And then think about the age groups and maybe what they might be eating to really target our promotions and our messaging. And if you think about social media, about what's been popular and what is driving people to eat, think about the cucumber salad. I asked the guys from the fruit and veg team at Woolies, I said, what happened to the sales of cucumbers when there was the cucumber salad trend? And they said, absolutely, cucumbers went way up. And it didn't matter what the price was. People still kept buying cucumbers because they wanted to make a cucumber salad. Now that's fantastic. If they now know how to make cucumber salads and they're going to keep doing that, brilliant. The other one was the dense bean salad. made it go up a bit, not quite as much as the viral creation, the cucumber, but people at Healthy Life will just about be able to quote this, that I keep saying all the time, that a diet low in legumes is the number one dietary risk factor for chronic disease. They're the cheapest of the meat and meat alternatives group. We're not eating enough of them. If you had a look back at this slide down the bottom, they only make up 2.5%. Huge room for improvement. So let's get creative with our recipes and our innovations and our influencers and whoever it is to get us to actually purchase more of these healthy foods, because we do know it makes a difference. So now we'll move on to the Move Healthy section. About 56% of us are tracking our health with some sort of tool, particularly steps and exercise. And that's fantastic to see, but what's missing then if still lots of us are not meeting the physical activity guidelines? Partly it's probably making sure the tools get into everyone's hands. How do we make them as accessible as we can? How do we create environments that are outdoors so that people will get out there and moving? If we think of the retail environment, I think of Big W are doing a great job there of creating an environment that is supportive to health. If you think of balls to play at $10, if you think about camping gear, fishing gear that's affordable, leggings that start from $7. So part of it is being able to actually purchase the equipment. So we have the outdoor physical spaces of, is there a local park near you? But we also have a retail space that can make being active more affordable. Sorry, my clicker. Oh, and also we have things like the digital tools that you use on these phones. So we've got our friends from Health and Wellbeing Queensland there. Give us a wave, Alex. And you'll see there is in the report a case study about the 10,000 Steps program. And that's a fantastic way of making walking and moving very accessible. It's designed with having evidence base in mind. It's a tool that is free to use. It's got goal setting, it's got incentives, it's all there to make challenges. But another key is there is some face-to-face contact available. And if we think about anything that's digital, face-to-face interpretation of results of tracking tools are really important. It's not about always doing it alone, because it can easily be misinterpreted. So the tracking devices we have shouldn't replace health professionals and face-to-face information. If we think about sleep healthy, well, I think my idea, I would love for healthy recipes, eating more veggies and legumes, and going to bed early go viral. I think that's what I would love. Going to bed be the most trendy thing you can think into. Maybe for people my age it is. I'm not sure. We'll ask Moira and we'll hear some more from Moira about it afterwards. But when we asked people about what their top health priorities were, sleep was the top non-food related health priority by 44% of people. And obviously the talk about sleep is increasing, which is fantastic, and the awareness and the importance of it. But do we really understand how the digital environment is influencing or impacting our sleep? So if we think about things like blue light, we often talk about that. But really it's probably these bright lights and your overhead light that are having more impact. Moira's got a little device and she's going to tell us a bit more about that later. And the content type that you would look at before bedtime. To say that screens and no screens before bedtime are quite unrealistic and not needed. If you're watching something that's quite calming versus a high-octane type video, that's going to impact your sleep differently. And we've got 2 guinea pigs who are actually going to give us a demonstration of that soon, and you'll be able to measure your heart rate. And nighttime disruptions. I think part of that is about how we create our environment around, do we have to be connected all the time? Do our people in our lives, our social world, think that we need to be connected? Does our work think we need to be connected? Or is it just us thinking we need to be connected? So how do we move those nighttime disruptions away so that they're not impacting our circadian rhythm? And Moira will give you some more insight because she's the actual expert on sleep health. And feel healthy. that's around our mental well-being. Well, is the digital world connecting us more, or is it driving us further apart? Are people who are lonely going on social media to look for connection, or is social media maybe disconnecting us more? So the chicken or the egg, and sometimes that's a bit tricky to work out. Even asking yourself, are the people I'm following on social media, is the things I'm watching on the television, is the news I'm watching, are the people I'm connecting with, are they actually having a positive influence on my mental well-being or not? It can be sometimes tricky to work out, or to be game enough to go, no, I'm not following that, or I'm not watching that, to really think about how digital is impacting our mental well-being. And because 33% of us in our survey said that nurturing relationships with family and friends is important. So how do we connect in a positive way? And stay healthy? How do we like to find health information? Well, most of us are a real mix. And if you look at the top one, visiting a health professional in person was more the older age group. But the people when answering the survey could choose more than one aspect, so most of us did. Most of us might read articles online, we might like to visit our health professional in person, but we also probably like to go and use telehealth. I certainly know when I was travelling and, earache, I need telehealth to get me some antibiotics to do that straight away. Or when I see my gastroenterologist, I don't want to have to drive 40 minutes to the hospital all the time to see him when he's just going to ask, how are you, is everything okay, and here's your new script. So I think there's very much benefits of being able to be in person, but also to be able to use your telehealth and be connected that way. And it's really about making sure that it's evidence-based. And we've actually got Gabby, put your hand up, Gabby. Gabby's in the room. There she is down there. Some of the Healthy Life social media myth-busting content has been our most interacted with. And so we're very proud to make sure that we have evidence-based information, the health team check the products, hundreds of free articles written out there. But how do we get that evidence-based health information to rise above the noise of everything else that is out there? So everyone in this room and everyone that you share the report with, we all have the ability to help the evidence-based information rise to the top. That's our challenge. And how we harness those digital technologies in healthcare care will help see how we can bring the digital and our more traditional space together and work together. It's not one or the other. It very much is how they work together. So in the report near the end, I'm not going to go through all our next steps, but the advisory board have put what they think are the next steps to consider. And they're under the topics of ensuring evidence-based information. With about 44% of nutrition information out there, misinformation or incorrect information, we certainly need to make sure that evidence-based is there. Guardrails in place so that we're ahead of the curve and we're all safe online. We don't want drones, for instance, delivering alcohol to schools or something like that. We do need to think about what's going to be ahead of the curve. And digital access to healthcare information and services is key. We want everyone, no matter where they are in Australia, no matter what they're doing, to be able to get the same level of care in our ideal world. So that's enough from me for a minute. We're now going to move on to having a bit of an activity with our wonderful Dr. Dinesh Palapano. He has an Order of Australia medal. He's an emergency department doctor on the Gold Coast. He's a lawyer. He has a spinal cord injury and he is part of our advisory board. So I'd like you to give a warm welcome to Dinesh. He's also Dinesh is also a good friend of mine, apart from when he's telling me that everything is bad in Melbourne. Which he sends me pictures of the weather in Melbourne or bad misinformation about Melbourne until I clear up and give you the right information. Now, Dinesh is also joined by Claudia and Alistair, who are from Griffith University. So I'm going to invite them to come to the stage. Oh, is this going on your head?
It is going. Oh, am I on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I on? Yeah. Cool.
You will be. We're actually going to have a look at some ways that very much we can harness the digital world for better health by having I've got to read the name because it's quite a long name. It's called the Thought Control and Electronic Muscle Stimulation Spinal Cord Injury Research. So, will I ask, I'm not sure, Claudia or Dinesh, either of you can jump in and feel free to start putting on, do we need to put the equipment on? Feel free to start putting the equipment on. Or do you want to tell me Dinesh first? You tell me Dinesh.
I'll explain what this is all about.
Yes.
So I think back a lot to, it's been 15 years now since I had a car accident and a spinal cord injury. And every day, from the moment it happened, I was wondering whether I'll be able to stand up again. Because when Simone asked us to stand, I wanted to be...
Oh, no! I felt so bad. Yeah,
I have a great time giving her a hard time about these things. Kidding. But honestly, the very last thing that I've ever done standing up was to give my mum a hug. I gave her a hug and got into the car, drove away, and I've been paralysed ever since. So this is Claudio and Alistair. I met Claudio when we were living in the same building. I didn't know who he was, but he's Italian, makes great food. I don't know if he puts legumes in his pasta though.
Healthy as well.
Yeah, healthy as well.
Good. I'll come over for dinner next time at the Gold Coast. Yeah.
So we put together some of the latest science and some of the most promising science in spinal cord injury. And we're running a trial at Griffith University that Claudio and I lead. And the intent is to help people with paralysis stand up again for the first time in human history. So we use thought control, and this is a headset that literally reads my thoughts. And we've developed it in-house through a lot of work with our engineers and scientists. And we use a virtual reality model of myself. And we use stimulation of the spinal cord. So we're not going to stimulate the spinal cord here today, but we're going to give you a little bit of an idea of what we do. So while I put this stuff on, Claudio can talk a bit more about where we're heading with this.
Do you want to come in the middle? Yeah, come in here, Claudio. Am I supposed to go to the next slide then? No. Cool. Good.
Fantastic. Okay, so what is happening here is that Alistair, our trusty Alistair, is setting up Dinesh with our system. So Dinesh is wearing now this is a standard virtual reality headset. And what we've done as part of our work is developing this additional device, which has electrodes that are placed basically on top of the scalp and read the brain activity of Dinesh from the motor and sensory cortex. And we designed it so it is easy to clip to the existing virtual reality. And really, we wanted something that was comfortable to wear because, Dinesh is going to start thinking and focusing about, in this case, cycling. And, if you do it multiple times a day or multiple times a week, it needs to be something very comfortable. So that was the drive behind redesigning and redeveloping our own device. So on the screen now, we're gonna, of course, this is a demo, and it's always a bit stressful for things to work well. But what you're gonna see is actually Dinesh, a 3D model of Dinesh there on the left of the screen, and also those lines that you see now, they're gonna start working soon, is actually the thoughts, the brain waves of Dinesh. So again, that's part of the live demo. And then we are gonna have on the right also a virtual reality environment where basically a virtual world that Dinesh can explore. And so Dinesh is able to see his own legs, and we are now setting it up on a nice island that we developed. And so Dinesh is going to be able to, or any other participant or user, are able to see their own limbs in virtual reality and basically focusing and thinking about cycling, they'll be able to move in virtual reality and explore the world. So we're still setting up, but in the lab, now this is a cut down version of it. In the lab, Dinesh will also be connected to a rehabilitation ergometer, and electrical stimulation of muscles and spinal cord. And that is because, together with the mind, we need to train the body. We need to create the right environment within the central nervous system, the right electrical environment to promote the neuroplasticity within the spinal cord. So you can see now on the left that on Dinesh's avatar that we have actually some of Dinesh's, those moving lines are actually his brain waves, and we made them look like that, so there was some visual attached to it. And when Dinesh thinks or decides to think about cycling, the actual movement will commence also in the virtual reality, and that will allow exploration in this virtual world that we created. So Dinesh, anytime you are keen and ready, not a problem. You can see on the left hand side again there is a little icon that shows the thought.
He's moving.
He's moving. Okay, I'll give you some concentration. And so what happens is that this basically reinforces the mind. When you have a spinal cord injury, basically, you can think about performing movement. You can think about moving, but since you have a paralysis, that does not result in an actual movement normally. So how do we retrain the person to actually think about the right thoughts? How do we retrain the brain? And this is a technology to do that.
So will then, Claudia, over time, you think you just multiple times of retraining the brain, that they will get some movement back? Like, will they have to retrain the brain for a few months or a few years, or do we not know yet?
No, it's a very good question. So even another piece of information, even if you have a complete paralysis, it doesn't mean that your spinal cord is completely severed. In most cases, there are still some neurons that remain intact.
Yes.
How do we retrain those? And to go to your question, we did train some people in our lab for a year, and we have seen some movement starting to return. Not enough to get people to walk, but enough to show that we're going in the right direction. Enough to recover some ability to voluntarily move some muscles that were previously paralyzed.
Yeah, fantastic.
That took between 6 and 12 months, training twice a week.
And I can imagine, Dinesh, would that be quite an emotional feeling to feel like do you actually feel like you are moving? Like, does that bring back a memory to you of like you're moving?
Yeah, and it's pretty weird when I initially started to do it because I don't remember what it's like to move my legs.
Of course, yes.
So just to try and remember what it was like and to think about it, it was really unusual.
Yeah.
But we just got some funding for an exoskeleton as well. So we're working with South Korea to plug this system into an exoskeleton that'll allow me to walk. And we're just hoping to deploy that this year through the thought control.
Fantastic. You mentioned something to me about a digital twin. What's the importance of the digital twin?
So this has been Claudio and I have been working on this since 2018, was
Yes.
it? Yeah,
yes.
2018. And when we first started out, I actually fractured my foot one day. And the digital twin, the good thing about that is it's a 3D reconstruction of the data of my body. So it has
Another one of you.
Another one of me.
No.
So, exactly.
I don't know if I can cope with two.
But it has bone density, it has muscles, it has everything about me. So when we do the therapy, we can optimize the forces that we put through it, so we don't break anything.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you, Claudio.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. People will be able to if you want to put in a question, use the QR code, and we can always answer it afterwards. But I do want to move on from. Was there anything else you wanted to say about that part before I'm going to hassle him about some other things now, Claudio. So I'm going to hassle him about some other things.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I won't hassle you, Claudia. Thank you. Thank you very much. I can't hassle Claudio yet because I don't quite know him well enough, but I can continue to
We can
ask
hassle you.
Yeah, I can ask you some more questions, that's right. Obviously that's fantastic, but there are some other challenges, daily challenges in your life that you were telling me that you use digital for. So if we think about at home, and then we might talk about as a doctor, but at home, what sort of things do you have set up to just make life easier that are digital?
Yeah, one of the biggest things, I mean, when this happened, I was 25 years old. So I used to...
You were the cool kid.
I was the cool kid. I'm still cool.
Debatable, but yeah.
But I was living by myself. I had a very independent life. But then suddenly I was paralyzed and my fingers have been affected too. So when I'm at home in bed, there's, my mum's around usually, but it's really hard to do stuff. It's really hard to, if I want to open a window or if I want to move the blinds or turn on the lights, control the TV, whatever it might be, it's really tricky. But even since I had the injury in 2010, technology has come so far. So with my voice now, I can open the blinds, the doors are electric. Yeah, so I can just say, open the blinds, and the blinds will open. And turn on the TV, or turn off the TV, or turn on the lights. So those kind of things have made a massive difference to how I can control the environment. I can't control my body temperature anymore because the skin doesn't work either. But I can say, cool me down, and the aircon will turn on and it'll cool me down again. So just being able to control the environment is huge, and it's small things, but it makes you feel like you're back in control a little bit more. And that's massive.
And what about as a doctor?
I always wondered, I love being a doctor. I love working in the emergency department. I love all of it. And I never feel like I'm working. But when I was coming back to medical school, I wondered, will I be able to do it as well or as efficiently? And technology has been a massive part of that. Healthcare is really slow to move. I had to fax something the other day because our lab won't accept email. So
if you asked any of your junior doctors about a fax, they're probably, what are you talking about?
Yeah, they don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So I had to fill out this form and fax machine and fax it off.
Because faxes are so secure.
Exactly,
put the wrong phone number in, it could go to anyone. Yep.
But I started thinking about ways in which I can enable myself, but also make myself quicker. So I started using things like voice recognition and dictation. I started using bedside ultrasound a bit more. So I got a little ultrasound that fits in my pocket, connects to my phone, and I can have a look at someone's baby or whatever it might be. So in my first year, when I was an intern, I kept track of how I was doing. And one of the things in the emergency department is how many patients was I seeing? Because if I was being really inefficient, then I wouldn't feel like I was adding value. And what we found at the end was I was seeing 25% more patients than my colleagues. But that was, I was surprised myself because I use a wheelchair, I don't use my fingers. But I was seeing more patients, but a large part of that is using technology. So I think technology is really transforming healthcare delivery. It makes us more efficient, makes us more safe, makes us more precise. And I love this quote that a cardiologist, Eric Topol, he wrote this book called The Creative Destruction of Medicine. And he says that technology is not a disruption to our work, but actually it's a way to restore the time-honored relationship between a doctor and patient.
Absolutely. And so can I just ask before we finish, have your other colleagues followed and taken up some of your more efficient practices? Are they using some of the tools like you are?
They've started to now. So I've seen people turn up with their dictaphones, like their microphones, and they start dictating into our EMR next to me. They've started using bedside ultrasound a bit more. And it's really nice to see that transforming the way we practice medicine.
Absolutely.
If I could tell you one last story. So when I'm working at night, sometimes I get to experience one of the best moments in medicine for me, and I think it highlights what medicine is. So there's been a few nights where mums who are pregnant come in the middle of the night. they might have some bleeding or some pain. And I know from my own relationship with my mum, the love of a mother is the strongest force in the world, right? So there's been a distressed lady who's worried about her baby. They're worried that there might be a miscarriage or something happening to the child. And there's been tears, and there's been fear, and there's been stress, and you can see that in the face. And some of the best moments that I've ever had in the 9 years that I've been a doctor is just popping my ultrasound on and showing her the baby's heartbeat and seeing the instant relief over the face.
Yeah.
And I think that's what technology allows us to do.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dinesh. And you're going to continue to be the cool kid on the block, because everyone's going to keep following you and what you're doing with technology. So thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
Dinesh.
Thanks, everyone.
Fantastic examples of just how, in practical ways, the digital technology can be absolutely better our health in so many ways. And now, feel like you have a little bit of a stretch if you like, or a stand up if you're getting a bit restless. We're going to have Dr. Moira Jung, who is also on our advisory board. Moira is a registered health psychologist, and she's also the CEO of the Sleep Health Foundation, and was also previously a nurse. So welcome, Moira.
Hi, Simone. Hi, everyone.
Oh, no, go back. Sorry, we nearly gave you a bit of a sneak preview. I think we might have our little guinea pigs get themselves set up as well, Ben and Gabby. We will have them doing some things for you in a minute. Ben is the Chief Marketing Officer at Healthylife, so in his job description now means he has to wear VR headsets as well. It's a new part that we've added. And Gabby is one of our naturopaths, and she's also going to be wearing some VR headset as we're going to talk about sleep soon. That's right, Ben, just walk straight across, you know. So it's okay, it's no problems. So something I've often talked about, oh, you want that? I'm in your way, Ben. I'm sorry, Ben. Put me back. But Moira and I are going to have a little chat while you're getting that going, though. So I just, want the whole stage. So something often talked about, Moira, in digital world is about sleep and how it's going to impact our sleep. So you hear people often talk about, the blue light in my screen, I've got to fix all of that. And you've taught me very much that it's often about overhead lighting, but also there's things about like the content that we're watching. And I know you're very practical about it's not telling everyone not that they can't have screens, but it's about what they watch. So we're going to have a demo of that, but I thought that maybe you could just explain to us a little bit about, what sort of content should we be watching before bed?
Yeah, it does matter. Screen use before bed, in the lead up to bed, is something that impacts our sleep. But I think there's been blanket rules. Most of you, maybe for the last 20 years, have been told, just don't be on your screens, don't do any screen time an hour or two before bed. And we know that advice is probably outdated now. It's no longer necessary and also unrealistic as a goal. Because if I have a show of hands of who would be refraining from all screen use in the hour or two before bed, show me your hands. Oh, great.
One, two.
There's usually about 2 to 5% on any room that I ever talk in. So we know that the horse is bolted, and if it was a younger room, there'd be no one, I'd say. So we don't need to be...
Not that we're saying that those two people were old. Yes.
Not at all. So there is nuance. It's a bit like there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of disinformation, there's no one-size-fits-all with screen use and sleep. And so we want to actually have a nuanced message in the same way that with drink driving, for instance, I take a lot of, as a sleep advocate, I take a lot of influence or inspiration from drink driving, seatbelts, smoking, climate change, all the other things that people are trying to have a movement for. It's pretty hard getting people to sleep more, I've got to tell you. But we don't need people to not be on screens. Like, we don't want young people to think that they're dangerous or they're evil. It's really important to think about separating your screen use from your bedroom use. And so not be on screens. And even some really elegant research from late last year from a New Zealand group, they looked at a group of adolescents, and the ones that were using screens before bed and the ones that weren't, there was no real difference in their sleep. But the huge impact was when the ones that were using in their bed all night. So having the screens, having it sort of right next to you under your pillow, that's the clincher where your sleep is going to be really badly impacted or, negatively impacted.
So when you're scrolling, when you should be snoozing,
Yeah,
or when you're on your phone, so you're losing hours.
Sorry, this is slipping down. Resisting the temptation to have it sort of just at you. And I think that I used to be really good at that, but then when my kids started to be old enough to be going out, I didn't want to be not hearing them or being on call for them. So I have my screen next to me, but I resist the temptation to be on it. Mind you, if I wake up in the middle of the night, last night I had a terrible sleep.
Oh, that's not good.
First night in a hotel. And I just put on a little podcast and I set it to 15 minutes. And then I just think, I didn't hear the rest of that. I go straight back to sleep. So technology in the bedroom, even for someone like me, is something that's actually helping me sometimes with my sleep, as long as you're aware of the content. So the content, it's the how long and the type of content and the level of engagement, whether you're addicted to it or not. So there's a whole other story around addictions to screens, which is not really the sleep story. Because once they're not addicted to the screen, there's no sleep disorder. It's just not even getting near the bed. So it's another thing.
So we're going to do a little bit of a demo here today, and it's all about content. So I think Ben's going to be first, and he's going to be watching, and we're all going to watch it as well. So actually what I would like you to do, if you have a watch or a phone or any device that measures your heart rate, I'd love you to take a look at your heart rate now. Don't fall off the stage for me, Ben. So just wait there. We haven't started yet. So if you can look at what your heart rate might be now, and then we're going to watch two different pieces of content. So we're going to watch something that is very stimulating and active, and that will probably get your heart rate up. And that's the sort of thing that Moira is suggesting you don't do or watch just before bed. And then Gabby is going to watch something, and we're all going to watch it too, that is much more calm. And hopefully you'll see a change in your heart rate. So take a note of what your heart rate is now. And then after we see Ben, who is going to be watching this game, we're going to see a stream of it slightly different, we'll see a video of it. Ben is going to be actually live streaming this game, and he's going to be hitting and banging things all over. Hopefully his heart rate will go up. That isn't what you want to do before bedtime. So if I go to the next slide, it won't start, will it? Okay, no. Cool. So are we ready? Steady. Everyone, so hopefully your heart rate is going to be measured as well. Hey, well done.
How was your heart rate?
You got very close to the
I was so worried.
I thought if I didn't say this, Steph might get mad at me. His wife's in the audience, so I didn't want to make sure that you stayed alive and in one piece. So quickly look at your heart rate. Hopefully your heart rate. Yeah. If you were laughing at Ben, your heart rate probably would have gone up as well. You were great entertainment. And also if you're looking at the screen. So hopefully, did most people's heart rate go up a little bit? Please tell me it did a bit. Yep, for those who watched it. Good.
So you can imagine with that kind of stimulation just before bed, which is quite common in younger people.
It's quite amusing.
You need to have a bit of time, 125 of a fit young man with resting heart rate, so even just a minute or two. So it's really important that the content that we watch before bed is in line with, all of you would have heard of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, and even if you don't know those words, you know fight and flight. It's sort of in the common social media these days. And we know that with Ben's just had a sympathetic reaction. His heart rate's up, his breathing's up, he's hot. And it's a body's way of making sure that you can get yourself out of trouble. You can either fight the stimuli or flee from it in time, so to keep yourself safe. So we don't need to be that's incompatible with going to bed, because you need to be actually able to sleep and actually it doesn't. So it makes, we don't know these days when you've got a deadline or you're in a terrible relationship and you're feeling distressed by it, or you're doing sort of content before bed like that, the body and the brain get the message that you shouldn't sleep, because it doesn't make sense to sleep while you're in danger. You're going to, our primitive ancestors would have got eaten by a bear or would have perished in the flood. So these primitive messages we have to be really careful that the brain doesn't know that it's just a game. the brain thinks Ben's in danger. He has to wait 2 hours now before his sleep mechanisms to come back. So let's look at a more appropriate pre-bed technology.
Did your heart rate, what did it go up to, Ben?
120.
Oh, wow, yeah. Oh, mine went up too. As closer you got to the edge, I thought, oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going... Gabby is going to do, and we're all going to watch this one, which is a little bit more relaxing. So Gabby's probably going to sit there. Ready? Are we ready?
Sit back, breathe, and relax. You are entering a deep hypnotic state. The things that you see.
So hopefully, Gabby...
How are you feeling?
Yeah, go for it, Maura.
Yeah, so I can imagine, I mean, maybe because you're on stage, it's not as calm, but that's a very appropriate, calming, parasympathetic response to the otherwise stimulation of life and the sympathetic responses that we have. How do you feel, Gabby? Oh,
and that's pretty good
Fantastic.
considering you're on stage, so it's not as if you're relaxed, when you're in your bed at home. So
yeah, so that's great. I mean, that's a huge difference in a minute or so. So that parasympathetic response. So these sort of simple things of just your heart rate is a sort of a form of biofeedback where you can actually just try and have some kind of influence. So things that are autonomic, like we don't really have control over our heart rate and our breathing, but we can to some extent. So you can actually try and control your breathing and control your heart rate by use of technology, audio or visual. So good luck with that.
So thank you, Ben.
So much.
Thank you, Gabby. Thank you for being our guinea pigs. So now we're going to have a look at, we're going to use this machine called a lux meter. And I don't know if we actually asked, but we're going to look at the light in the room. And I'll get Moira to explain it in a minute. But we will want these lights on for a minute. And then we wondered if we could turn off as many lights as we can in a couple of minutes to measure the light. So Moira, we often talk about blue lights, and we've talked about that already, about that being the problem. But tell us about what the lights really is and what we need to look at in our home.
Absolutely. So I'd love you to, one thing to take away from today is the awareness of the effect of light on our sleep. That the light-dark cycle is probably the most influential thing on our sleep-wake health, our sleep health. So you actually need to be in situations... With blue light and the light devices, there's blue light here as well. The blue light is in our the light that's all around us, and it just happens to be the thing that suppresses melatonin. So the hormone that we need to initiate and maintain sleep is secreted in dim light conditions, or preferably dark. So if we're in light, whether it's from our screens or whether it's just from a room like this, you will not have your melatonin come out at the time that's appropriate to initiate and maintain sleep. So it's a really huge message, and I think the screen messages got out around blue light, but blue light is all around us as well. It's just a part of the rainbow of colours. So I want you to be aware that when you're going to bed, you need to be almost in a situation like in here. It's really, really bright at the moment. It's
Samara's got a lux meter, and it's measuring the lux.
Yeah, the light intensity in this room. I took this out to dinner last night, and I was doing the hotel room.
She brought it to dinner. Sarah and I went out to dinner, and Moira came with the lux meter.
Because I knew I had to check that it was working for this demonstration. So at the moment on stage here, it's what's that? 20,000, like about 4,000 lux, 5,000 lux of light intensity.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
And to be sleeping well, you want to be less than 50. And preferably while you're in the sleeping room, you're in less than 5. So last night, the room I was in, I thought, what's this? It was just too light. I was turning off things and unplugging things because hotel rooms are just so lit up. I don't know why they're so lit up. So if we can dim the lights and see...
Are we able to turn those down for a second? So, beautiful.
Oh, beautiful.
Let's see what we get.
So it's down to so it's 80, but you don't want to be less than 50. Like when you're in your lead up to bed tonight, you wanted to be in a room about half as light as this for your melatonin to come out.
So that's just maybe a lamp in the room.
Yeah, just the lamps. Have the overhead lights off. And if you're on some kind of screen use, make sure that you have the night glow and it's that you're aware of the stimulation. So the whole point of my little stint today was that content matters, the type of thing you're using before bed matters, and the lighting really matters. So there's 2 key messages.
Thank you, Maureen. So light and content matters. Yeah. And we'll all think of Ben as we try and calm down. We'll think of it to be more like a Gabby. Thank you. Thanks very much, Moira. I'd like to invite to the stage, we've got Sarah Gray and we've got Dr. Rob McCartney. So Sarah is the Chief of Health Operations and Innovation at Healthylife. She's also a registered pharmacist and nutritionist. Welcome, Sarah. And Dr. Rob McCartney, the Chief Medical Officer from Woolworths Group, and he's also an occupational environmental physician. And in this discussion, we're going to think about mostly the Stay Healthy section of the report. So if you have a little wiggle around if you need to, I know it's been a longer morning, but we'll about 15 minutes here and then we'll have some questions. So do remember if you want the QR code for questions, I'm not sure, questions, feel free to put those as well during the session. So I'm going to start with Sarah. We'll do ladies first, Rob. So if we're looking at the ease of accessing health information, services, advice online, there's risks, but there's also opportunities. What can you see as the main ones in your area of work, Sarah?
Yeah, I feel like we kind of got the boring bit.
Everyone's heart rate's just coming back down.
So I think it brings a passing together with sort of
yes.
information that you can access online, whether it's Googling a health condition that you've got, or whether it's you're sick yourself and you want to find information or seek a telehealth service. But the good side of having all this available is it empowers you as a consumer or a patient to go and grab that information and then do something about it. And we think about remote, regional communications, accessibility, and also websites to see medical professionals. There's lots more that you can do at your fingertips.
Yeah.
But like all things, in life, in particular health, there's that balance. So what is the risk? And I like to think of it as just information overload or overload. So it's great that you have all this information, but if you aren't a health professional, then what do you do with that information?
Yeah.
You might have a skin condition and you read about it, you might watch a video on YouTube or listen to a podcast, but can you actually make meaningful decisions based on what you've heard to make a change to your health that actually will improve your end health outcome? And that's what I think probably too much is become a bit hard. Like it's not about the misinformation with nutrition on social media.
Yeah.
It's a huge one when you look at the amount of people that are getting their information.
Yeah.
I know we see lots of things that we try and bust in terms of healthy life, but that's the kind of balance that we're playing with.
Yeah, and you've got to bring that to the surface, don't we? How do we bring the good stuff to the surface? And how do you think some of the services then are evolving in Australia?
We've actually introduced into the virtual ED opportunity that is you may have seen this. You've had to go to an emergency department or to avoid you getting to one. There's virtual emergency departments that you can actually interact with. So I'm going to use that as an example actually with this question because it really supports the health system. Since then, introducing the concept, I do a bit of work for a regional health service in Victoria, and it's a small health service with very limited urgent care facilities. And they actually use this service as a trolley with a virtual doctor on there, and there's not doctors always there, there's nurses very well trained and upskilled nurses. But the pressure that really takes off the medical system is amazing because even before that step, admission is considered and most, a lot of people turn up to an emergency department. There's something that probably isn't urgent. Yeah. It might feel urgent to you as an individual, but is that something that actually needs urgent care? So these types of things, individual tools, take the pressure off the system, help the person know what to do next, or either then come in and seek more urgent care. So
absolutely.
It's a great way in the rural location especially. It is in action as well.
And I was listening to, I think we've got some people from New South Wales Health here in the audience, some of our friends from New South Wales Health, and I was listening to their Futures podcast, and it was, their latest one was talking about the ED and the virtual ED and just how the lady was saying what her goal was or wish was that anyone who doesn't need to end up in a bricks and mortar healthcare facility doesn't, that they can be triaged beforehand and sorted out and only go to one if they need to. Yeah, save the travel, save the stress. Exactly. And what other opportunities do you think we have with digital health and tech? What's on the horizon, do you think?
I like to think of flipping it from reactive care to proactive care. So we have all these amazing tools, but we still, we're supposed to remember we have really poor compliance rates to medications and chronic conditions, but we have all these tools and services. So how can we actually flip it to say, how can we use these to really get good thing? How can we integrate medication reminders, health check reminders, all seamlessly into your everyday life? I think the future generations are really fortunate. They only have to think about, get sick, where do you go, which doctor do you see, can you get into a doctor, and then what do you do next? Like, our health system is great, but if you're sick, it actually really is quite hard to navigate and bring all those pieces together. It probably comes back to that first question. All this information, your fingertips, test results, information, who actually brings that integrating it back into the health system.
And I suppose the challenge now is that you need to be health literate and digital literate to sort of bring that together, and that's quite a big ask, isn't it? Our digital natives might be digital literate, but they're not necessarily health literate, and the ones that aren't digital literate are probably more health literate. And how do you bring it together? It's a tricky one. I want to ask Rob. You ready, Rob? Been patiently waiting for this morning. So what are you seeing in your area of work that you think we could maybe learn from?
Well, I specialise mostly at the interface of health and work, but I also have some clinics in regional and remote parts of Queensland. So with the occupational health, we're seeing a big change in the way we can help manage the health, wellbeing and safety of workers by implementing digital tools around health. And that's not just physical health, but predominantly now psychological health, because the evidence we're seeing in workers' compensation claims, injuries, excess, unplanned absence, are coming about the overall health and wellbeing of the person. But managing that while they're in the work environment has proved to be difficult. So some of the tools we're using now are really influencing the outcomes of those workers. And that can be certain wearables, but it's also monitoring their psychological health by helping them with their technology and then interacting with us from afar. With the regional and remote clinics we've got, it's remaining difficult and getting worse every year for people in the regions and remote areas of Australia to access primary health care. So we've implemented a whole bunch of digital tools to help them and their primary health care provider. But waiting and expecting and hoping for more people to go out to those areas to provide those services, it's going to be difficult. So we're seeing a big change in those two areas.
There's actually, just talking about workplace, there's some really good case studies in the report from Woolworths Group where they've used virtual reality to train people who work in stores, for instance, around safety. And I know you, as Chief Medical Officer at Woolworths Group, will have been involved in some of this, and just even the safety of team working out that, we need certain trolleys in certain areas or whatever to really try and prevent musculoskeletal injuries, and that's worked really well. Have you seen any client cases where digital tech has really sort of changed someone's life or made a big impact? Have you got any examples?
Yeah, absolutely, particularly when it comes to prevention of chronic disease and psychological health. We put in place health management plans that are digital tool driven to monitor the progress of people's health and lifestyle modification. And that, linked with tools like Healthylife have, are going to make a huge difference in the workplace. And we've had a group of miners where we've implemented, that's M-I-N-O-R-E-R-S, we've influenced their health outcomes by monitoring their health regularly and feeding back information like the Healthylife text we just got. And it's actually altered outcomes. We will follow their BMI, and we're doing it now with psychosocial health monitoring tools as well, where we get real-time data which we can feed back to the individual, and cohorts health changes. Any one individual health varies greatly, but if you can decrease body mass index by a couple of points, huge outcome for longevity.
Yeah. And then there's the big one. I know you've been doing some updating or upskilling yourself in the area of AI. I know you have an interest there. So AI and health, what do you make of it? What do you think will happen in the next 5 years, Rob?
Well, 5 years, and change never comes as quick
2
as you
years,
think.
5 months, 5 weeks.
Yeah, that's right.
They actually said 5 weeks, yeah.
And it never comes as slow as you think. Enormous changes, exponential changes, at times alarming changes. But if we can manage it well, it's going to be extraordinary for the population. I think when it comes to those of us who offer advice to individuals based on knowledge and wisdom, as pointed out previously, that relationship is going to be everything, because the changes I've seen in use of data and to change algorithms and decision trees on people's health is going to significantly change the impact between clinician and patient, for the better for some. The challenge, as you've already said, is how do people know the data they're getting is correct? Now, at the moment, people are still saying, oh, yeah, but the doctor will, or the healthcare provider will have to give them that information. But that's not far away. Avatars are getting better and better. I often, when I get a phone call from someone trying to sell me something, now almost can't tell that that's not actually a person. Yeah. So we're 30 seconds away from you not knowing that the person you're talking to isn't actually a human doctor. Now, whether that's good or bad depends on who's writing the algorithms, decision trees. I think the changes overall are going to be better and amazing, but there's some challenges in there. 5 years, if we're sitting here in 5 years, it will be a completely different landscape, I believe.
Do you think there'll be an avatar of Rob and Sarah and Simone sitting here? And
almost certainly.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
An avatar of Rob and an extra of Dinesh.
The presentations we're giving now, we've mocked one up on fake video of me, and we just uploaded the text, uploaded my video image, and then no one can tell the difference.
Yeah.
So I may well be an avatar now, I'm not sure.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Sarah and Rob. So don't go away, though, because we're going to have some questions. So we'll get joined by Moira and Dinesh to come to the stage. I'll invite them to come to the stage as well. First question we have. We saw technology train the brain. Is there a future, so this might be for you, Dinesh, is there a future where it can untrain the brain? Oh, well, it could be for everyone, really. For example, alcohol or drug addiction, food addiction, helping people make the decisions they want. Wow, that's a big question. Where technology train the brain, is there a future where it can untrain the brain? For example, alcohol or drug addiction?
Yeah. Is this on?
Yeah, it's on. Yeah.
Is it on? Come on. Yeah, I mean, I guess untraining it is retraining it in a way. So these tools can be used to, and are used to do a range of things in psychology and coaching. So across from addiction to sports to all sorts of things, definitely these kind of tools are being used.
And I hope it can be, yeah. It'd be a great one if it could help with that. What do you think the impact of AI, this might be you, Rob, what do you think the impact of AI will be on our ability to maintain good health and access evidence-based information? So we've already talked about that a little bit, but is there anything you might want to add to that?
Yeah, we're all going to be living a lot older, and I've promised my kids I'm going to be living to 120. Of course, if I don't reach that promise, I guess I'm not here to take the consequences. But I'm super confident, perhaps deluded, that I'll be 120. And that's just looking at the graph of how age is changing and the rapid changes in the coming with various therapies, the biological, the genetic therapies, the gene therapies. The challenge, of course, is, as one of the slides there, we want to be healthy. And we often sit around and discuss how many of our latter years would you change to be 20 again for 6 months? Because we remember the energy, the youth, the vital time. If we can get that and not just age for the sake of ageing, and I think there are going to be significant changes in digital health that will do that. Cognitive decline remains one of our big fears, because we're all seeing our parents, those of us who are still lucky enough to have our parents, we're seeing their decline. And so those are going to be huge changes required. How to know what you're seeing is the truth. We hear this talk of misinformation, disinformation. I'm not clearly informed about what the two definitions of those are. There's way too much where personality and force of a personality and charisma can get ideas across. How to know what we know is the truth is going to be a huge challenge.
Yeah,
and who can you trust? And of course the answer is Healthylife at the moment, but trying to find out who you can trust is going to be challenging in the forward and going forward, and we're going to need to know who of groups and people do we trust, and it's going to be vital.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to change pace a little bit. It's a question for you, Moira. Is it safe to consistently take melatonin pills to help you sleep?
Very good question, because melatonin is the most used supplement around the world for children and adults in the whole wide world.
Wow.
So it's a good question, whoever
The whole wide world.
The whole wide world. So it is relatively safe, like it is a safe supplement, but it's really important for everyone to know, and I'm sure you do know this, that it's not totally benign. Like, it is still acting on your body and acting on your brain, and so it's something that needs to be reviewed regularly, and it's something that needs to be done in conjunction with someone that knows what they're talking about, so some kind of health professional, trained health person. Yeah, let's probably leave it at that, but it's relatively safe. It's much safer than other drugs for sleep, and it's much safer than alcohol for sleep. But it is something that people do need to know, that the studies have only been done for 6 months follow-up. There's been no studies ever to see the effects longer term than 6 months. And I know one of my nephews has been on it for 15 years, since he was 3, and he's 18 now. So, but I know people who've been on it since 1996. One of the studies I did back in then was with totally blind people. They have problems with, they don't have the light dark. People have no light, and so they have a lot of problems with their circadian rhythm and regulating sleep. So we did this trial, and ones I'm still in touch with, they still take melatonin every night. So anecdotally, it's safe, but it's a really clear message that it's just like Panadol. It's not, you don't have to be very aware. It's not. It's a drug, and you need to be reviewing it. You need to be aware of it and not taking it every day the rest of your life.
Yeah, thank you, Maura. That is very topical, yeah. Do you have suggestions on how to address inaccurate nutrition information in social media? I'll start with you, Sarah, and then maybe I can add to it.
Yeah, sure. I think the great work we're doing with the team Healthy Life is one way, but I love the idea in the report, like we get the blue tick on Instagram. Could there be a tick that you actually qualified and registered health professional, that you haven't just health coaching course and then you're telling people how to manage chronic disease? Everyone's sort of working within their scope. Scope creep online with different health professionals. I have a really simple way of doing this, which is probably going to sound way too simple, but if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
Like if you see something and you think, wow, there's this patch that's going to help me sleep and it's going to work the first day I ever use it, or there's a frozen shoulder one going after 30 minute pause and take this and it'll go away in a day. Things with health don't usually resolve that quickly.
Absolutely.
So if you see something and you think, well, does it seem right? Probably isn't. I've just checked with another validated source, a health professional, and then always checking who you're getting the information from. And either asking what the evidence is, and if they can share it, that'd be great. And if they can't share it with you, well then be conscious that that advice may not be something you should take on. Because just because you've read about it, or because someone told you about it, or someone shared it, doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Absolutely.
We're very different. Like we're very different.
Yeah.
Things will work differently for us.
Absolutely. And I think there is some thoughts on that in the next step sections of the report. And one of the simple things is checking who's giving you the information. Yeah, check their qualifications. Dinesh, this is one for you, or a couple for you, or maybe put them together. Do young patients or people with less time since their spinal cord injury respond to do they respond more quickly to the work that you've been doing there? So someone who's just had the spinal cord injury, will they respond? Or it might even be a Claudio question, question.
So we've found that for the first year or two, spinal cord injuries are really stabilising by themselves. There's a huge amount of damage that happens at the site of the injury. There's a lot of inflammation, there's a lot of bleeding, there's all sorts of stuff that's going on. So for the first year or two, the injury is still stabilising and people can get a little bit of sensation or movement back. So we actually leave those patients alone, and actually many studies focus on patients who are more than 2 years out of their injury, because the injury is more stable at that point. So we don't really know. There are some therapies that are going into acute spinal cord injury to reduce that damage and to increase the repair process. But it's a whole different science to what we're doing in a way.
And to follow on that, from that, they're wondering, could this digital technology be used for other skills, to improve other skills, such as like with athletes who might want to improve their skills?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And we are actually, we have partnerships. Is that right, Claudia? We have some partnerships with sporting organisations and Cycling Australia too, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are using the digital twin technology for athletics and other applications, and even military.
Interesting.
Did we write a paper on wearables or something?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sort of. Not so much the twin, but the applications of all of this can be extended to other areas.
were you wanting to add to that, Rob? Yep.
Yeah, there's, we used to think always that youth is always going to adapt and modify better from injuries, illnesses, and we all know that when we used to fall over and hurt ourselves when we were 15, you get better within a couple of days. When you're 25, it might take a couple of weeks and so on. But there is really good evidence to show the brain is much more plastic in latter years than we thought. And where we probably thought people, they're not going to adapt or modify, teaching an old dog new tricks, who's going to change their behaviour? It's much more likely than we thought.
Great.
And I think we neglect the elderly in an aged care, thinking modification and change can't occur. And there's no biological reason it can't. So it's actually getting involved with the psychological or the biopsychosocial and digital tools will help that, I think.
Absolutely. I think it's a good one. Oz Active have a futures report about making sure that gyms and studios and all those sort of people are using AI to their benefit. And part of that is using it across the lifespans, and how can we use AI to for machines and other ways to encourage people to do exercise in maybe a non-traditional type way. So you're right, that we shouldn't forget about how we can use it to improve everyone's quality of life. And the last question we have here, Moira, is you mentioned you had trouble sleeping in the hotel room last night. Do you have any tips on travel for sleeping in different hotels, and are there any digital tools we can maybe use for that?
Good, very good question. Probably, I think that hotels are, getting really good at different pillows and being aware of the lighting as it's travel. Like Qantas, University of Sydney's doing a big project with Qantas, Project Sunrise, looking at the lighting in the cabins. So I think for me, for something like this, a one night, the best advice is just roll with it. Just don't get too fussy about the one night of poor sleep. Like it's just it looks like having a beer and chips and at the footy doesn't mean you don't have a healthy lifestyle. So it's the odd bad night's really important to embrace. And so I think just travel with your pillow if you can, if you've got a little one, and just roll with it, and just be aware of your light. Went from a morning walk. Make sure minimal alcohol. Exercise, get out, all that stuff while you're away. Make sure you've got that real tuning into the light and the dark for your advantage.
Absolutely. Thank you, Moira. And thank you, everyone. Feel free to stay there. So thank you. That brings us close to the closing of all our information for you today. We hope that you're inspired to share the information, to really help join us to spread the word and advocate for the health of Australians, to help everyone live their healthy life. And to do that, we have actually tried to make it easy as possible using our digital abilities. So we have developed a comms kit, and you will all, at about 10 o'clock, you should receive an email that I managed to schedule. Hopefully you will get that. And it will have in there for you a link to the Living Healthy report, to the comms kit, and to a feedback. And so the comms kit gives you access to the video that you saw earlier, a whole lot of stats pulled out for you, and we have a competition. So for anyone in the next 2 weeks who shares something, or what we will think is the best of what your thoughts are about the report and digital technology, there are 3 $100 Healthy Life vouchers to win. So just really encouraging anyone, they don't have to be here today, anyone who you're sharing the report with, to share the information. Because when you think about it, absolutely together we can harness the digital world for better health. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you.